Hi everyone, welcome to MJS Coaching Football. Thank you for watching my channel. I really appreciate it. Coach Sullivan here, defensive coordinator. Excuse me, and I hope that your 2021 season was as successful as ours was. In this presentation today, I want to talk to you about one of our 3-4 match quarters variations that we call Grade 2. Okay, so this is the Grade 2 premise presentation. I'm going to give you the ins and outs, the background of Grade 2, how it's a variation of our match quarters, right? It's still matching up to the route concepts, but how we match up to it will also allow us to actually bracket number one, zone bracket number one. Okay. So again, this is a grade 2 premise with a zone bracket of number one. Over here, I'm going to go through the key terms of grade 2, right? Essentially, the nuts and bolts of how this is a variation of our base match quarters, grade 4. So non-subscribers, you have to push that button. Okay, so we have grade 4. Then we also have a match quarter variation grade 3, and now we have another match quarter variation grade 2, right? So what does it mean that the numbers keep getting lower? Okay, well, that's kind of the key. And then over here, I have no intentions of getting into any route concepts. Those are all individual separate presentations, but I just want to kind of take the key terms and give you more of a visual here in the diagram again without necessarily getting into route concepts. Okay? So the first key term is grade 2 itself. What is grade 2? What is meant by grade 2? Well, it's a two-man route progression match quarters zone variation, right? So we only have two defenders reading number 2. Okay, so we started off with 4, then cut it to 3. Now we're down to 2. So that's going to enable us to zone bracket number 1, as you'll see. Okay, so that's what's meant by grade 2. And the two defenders who are reading number 2 are our outside linebacker and inside linebacker. And this is important, as is the case with grade 4 and grade 3. Non subscribers, hit that button. Okay, this is on both sides operating independently of each other. So the left side of our defense is operating off of number 2 and 1 over here. The right side of the defense is operating off of number 2 and number 1 over there. Okay? So both outside linebackers and both inside linebackers are reading number 2 to number 1. That's the key. 2 to 1. 2 to 1. It's 2 first, then tells them if they even have to go to number 1. And if so, what do they do if they do have to go to number 1? Okay? So that is the first key term. That in a nutshell is grade 2. Right? So if they're the only two reading numbers 2 to 1, then what in the heck are the safety in the corners doing, right? Well, here we go. So first, before we get to that, the number 2 reads, number 2, and the 10-yard rule. Remember, 10 yards for us is a vertical. So that's the 10-yard rule, right? Hits 10, over 10, it's a vertical. Now, obviously, there are going to be times when a route maybe gets to 9. I think 8, the players can sense. 2 yards is a lot, right? But 9, 9.5, we tell them, hey, if you think it's a vertical, treat it like a vertical. But there's no question, 10 yards or more, deeper, that is a vertical. So when we talk about our 10-yard rule, that is the basic premise behind our quarters, specifically match quarters, and in this case, match quarters variation grade 2. Okay, so that takes care of the 10-yard rule. Now, if number 2 goes out, so all of these, right, out, in, or vertical is based upon the 10-yard rule. Okay, just make sure we're clear. So number 2 goes out, so that'd be under 10. The outside linebacker, right, it's going to cut and carry. See the corners not involved with number 2. Okay, so what's meant by cut, he's going to get on the offensive side of the receiver, meaning the hip side that's closest to the quarterback. That's the cut. Cut in between the throwing lane, quarterback to receiver. The carry, what's meant by carry is keep outside leverage. It helps inside of you. Okay? So the outside linebacker running out is going to cut it and then carry it. So the carry would obviously be if it turned into a wheel. Then all your help's to the inside. Okay? And if number 2 were to go in, again under 10, right, then the inside linebacker is going to cut it. But now he's going to wall it, which means he's going to get in between the receiver and the quarterback, but he's also going to do his best to get in front. Okay, that's the wall. Build a wall in between. So a wall typically we associate with any type of vertical stem or route. Okay? But when we say cut and wall, we want you to stay in between. If this were the receiver here, stay in between the receiver and the quarterback. Okay? And then also if you can stay in front a little bit, that'd be great. We don't want you to be in chase. Okay? And then vertical, so now if the receiver hits 10 or deeper, the outside linebacker is going to cut it and wall it. Make the quarterback make the perfect throw over you, right, to the outside shoulder of the receiver. That's not an easy thing to do, right, even at the highest levels of football. So out in vertical, the outside linebacker is going to cut it. Carry, outside leverage versus an out. Wall, inside leverage versus a vertical. Okay? So, consequently, it says we're going to read 2 to 1. So if number 2 goes in, so the only scenario for the outside linebacker, if number 2 goes in, the outside linebacker works out to number 1. And if the number 1's coming inside, he's going to take number 1. So the whole premise behind match quarters, if he comes out to you, you take him. If he comes in to you, because he goes in, then you take him, right? Like matchup zone in basketball. Okay? So then I'll get to the find work. If 2 goes in and 1's vertical or 1's out, what's the outside linebacker do? I'm going to save that for last. Okay? If number 2 goes out or vertical, the inside linebacker, okay, first of all, they're going to take that read step. They get a hi-hat. They're going to pivot out to number 2 like they always do. Pivot. 2's out or vertical. Now they start to physically move to number 1. Okay, if 1's coming in, then they will cut and wall it. Okay? So if 2's out or vertical, the inside linebacker works to 1. If 1's coming inside, then they'll cut and wall number 1. That's what's meant by 2 to 1. So if 2's in, inside linebacker cut and walls. If 2's out or vertical and 1's in, inside linebacker will cut and wall number 1. Okay, that's how we handle the crossing routes under 10. All righty? So then that leaves us with, so that takes care of the 2 defenders and how they read and react to number 2 first, and then where number 1 comes in. Then how do we bracket the number 1 receiver? In fact, it's a zone bracket, right? It's both sides, again, corners and safeties, right? And so what I have is I have a press example here. And since number 1's off the ball, he's playing off in his usual 1x7. Okay, it's still a bracket nonetheless. So the corner technique is what we call bump and tempo. Okay, bump and tempo. Okay, essentially, it's a zone man concept, right? Zone coverage with zone leverage, but we're playing number 1 unless number 1 runs inside away from us, right, under 10. Then either your inside or outside linebacker takes him. Right? There it is. So if one goes out, one goes vertical, corner stays with one. Okay? And so they're gonna, I don't mind doing this. When we got them in press, they're gonna be bumping and then matching the tempo, the speed of the receiver. If the receiver's flying down the field, then the corner's gonna be flying with him in crossovers. Right? Keeping his outside leverage, because the bracket is corners outside, safety's inside, corners low, safety's high. It's beautiful. It's an inside out, high low bracket. And it's zone, right? Cool beans, baby. And again, that's the case on both sides. So here, when they're off, right? Press, that's easy. When they're off, they take 0 pedals. We say take the charge. It's off man technique. Take the charge. Okay? If the receiver's flying, well, then you're going to have to, as he's nearing you, you're going to have to start to pick it up a little bit. Get a jam. That's the bump. Always looking to get a hit on the receiver. Legal hit, obviously. And then match the tempo. Okay? If they see one's hard inside when they're in off man, well, then now they're going to be working to what they do next. Okay? Which is down here. Excuse me. If one's inside, okay, then what they're going to do is they're going to deliver. So what that means is if he comes hard, I know I'm not drawing route concepts, but if he does that, the deliver is, well, he's not going to be able to get hands on him, but he'll deliver, meaning he'll go with it, but now he's got his eyes on running back to any kind of crosser, because if the ball gets thrown here and you just sit out there, that's an easy completion. We want you to be in a position, if the ball's still thrown there, to be able to make a play on the ball or the receiver. Don't just stand there and be a spectator. So deliberate means move with the receiver, but now your eyes are quarter running back to crosser. Okay? And as you're doing it, right, see eyes running back to crosser, you're making a cut call. And that's either going to be for your outside or inside linebacker. Cut. You're alerting them. Here comes number one. That's it. Cut. Pretty simple. Okay? So that's the cornerback. The safety, right, uses their mirrored release of number 2 quarters technique. Right? So it's what they do in both grade 4 and grade 3, grade 2. The safety's technique's the exact same. So if 2's out, they zone off to 1. So if 2 goes out, he zones off. Excuse me. If 2 goes in, he stays on his track, which is, we say, back door. Your eyes are going to number 1. If 2's vertical, we just say tempo on top of 2, read the indicator. So you're able to play either over 2 or 1. Pretty straightforward that way. Okay? So now, basically speaking, right, as I said, if number 1 goes out, so this is all the 10-yard rule, or goes vertical, the corner's going to bump in tempo, keeping outside leverage, because the safety's going to be inside. Okay? So if 1 goes out or vertical, that's what the corner's going to do. He'll be outside with number 1. Right? And again, if 1 goes inside, he delivers it, and his eyes go to the running back. He's not playing number 2. This is the hardest thing we have when it comes to our corners, because their eyes immediately want to go to 2. Okay? And it's because of grade 4, the coverage we play the most. So if I had to say the hardest part of this coverage is it's breaking the habits of the corners, getting their eyes on 2. Because they're going to see 2 coming on the out, and they're going to want to match the out. Okay? You keep delivering 1, 2 is going to cross your face with the outside linebacker. Ignore them, because you got to get your eyes on the running back. Okay? So that is grade 2, the premise of it. Significant enough tweak. All right? It's an awful lot that for the offense, the quarterback, the receivers, to try and figure out on the fly. Because we'll play outside zone press in grade 4 too. So how do they know you're in the grade 4 or you're in grade 2? That's the beautiful thing. Our alignments, our disguise. So similar to, so non-subscribers, push that button. both grade 4 and match quarters variation grade 3, I will have a presentation for all the various route concepts that we see and defend, in this case, out of grade 2. So, as I said at the beginning, thank you for watching MGS Coaching Football. I really, really appreciate it. To both subscribers and non subscribers, please, questions, reach out to me at CoachMJSullivan@gmail.com because I would love to talk football with you.